All right, Nehemiah chapter 9, let's call this one Building Better, because in this chapter, they are going to do something that seems a lot like the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, where the people fast and confess an atonement for the sins that they have committed. This time, it's not necessarily going to come at the proper time for the Day of Atonement, so it's not specifically called that, but much like the Day of Atonement, they are going to fast and confess as the law is going to be read again. This time, instead of reading it merely for a better understanding of what God actually said, they're going to spend part of the day listening to the law that's being read and part of the day confessing the ways that they've been violating it. And so in moving forward, some of the leaders are going to stand before the people and say, bless God, by acknowledging the wrong that has been done. And so they're going to give honor to God for who he is, one who even the heaven, the earth, and even the seas seem to praise, the one who made a promise to Israel through Abraham, a man that God found faithful, and likewise, a man to whom God kept his promise, because he's going to say that God is righteous. And so that's going to be an example or a target point for the people to get back to, because in contrast to Abraham and God and the way their relationship started out in a trustworthy way, the people's history has been one of being untrustworthy. And so even though I'm going to give a relatively short summary to a lengthy description of Israel's history, it's going to seem to break down in three major components. One, the mistakes they made during the Exodus. And then after that, getting settled in the land during the period of the Judges, the ways in which they rebelled or derailed their success during the period of the Judges. And then finally, the ways in which they derailed their success during the period of the prophets, which really spans a large period of time, but also includes the ways in which they failed under the kings. And even though it might sound like a downer because I'm talking about failure and derailing, it reminded me of back when I was playing team sports that were heavily dependent upon film study. A lot of times, film study comes with a lot of criticism. Sometimes you have good games, but sometimes you don't. And film study is only effective if you realize that film study is not your highlight reel. And so in effective film study, the coach and your teammates have the leeway to be honest about things that you are lacking in so that you can get better and eventually produce a highlight reel that's worth watching. But a good highlight reel is dependent upon honesty and film study so that you can understand mistakes you've made that need to get fixed. That reminded me of what Israel is going through right now, because in spite of all the successes they've had, they built the temple again, actually rebuilt the temple. They've instituted some of the structures that can help their society move forward, and they've defended themselves with relatively few people as they rebuilt the wall. But they are not at a period where they need to hear a lot of encouragement about that, because they've also woven into that relationships with people who don't actually want to see them succeed. And so every time they start to show signs of success, those friends start to get agitated and actually at least a little bit shady. And so as they are reviewing film, they don't need to hear a whole lot about what's going right, because they've got to find a way to deal with some relationships that can steer it all wrong. And so likewise with us today, I'm sure we all like to hear encouragement, but our ability to move forward effectively has a lot to do with our ability to deal with candid film study, much like the people of Israel in this chapter are dealing with a candid assessment of where their history has failed and where they have already started to repeat the same mistakes right now, so that as they move forward, God willing, they can produce a highlight reel worth watching.